by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. GM. So, what a night. Wow. So Trump got shot on live TV and survived, thank God. And I think it's perfectly clear now to anybody who was in doubt what's actually happening. And I do agree with what people have said. He's won the election. Obviously, pending that he survives until the election, he's won the election. But fucking crazy, isn't it? And conspiracy theorists proven right yet again, to all those retards who believe everything they see on the mainstream news. It'll wake some more of them up. And looking back, when Ronald Reagan got shot in 1981, his approval rating went up by 10%. And he won the 1984 election in a landslide, as far as I'm aware. Absolute landslide, yeah. Reagan won re-election in a landslide. Not even close. Smashed. And like, you've seen this, right? The more controversy around Trump. So when they tried to arrest him and charge him and convict him of these crimes, his approval rating just went up and up and up and up. And this has turned him into a hero, a literal like superhero, with his reaction and how he survived. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So what does it mean for the markets? I think that crypto's reacting, first of all, because, and by the way, it's not a surprise, not a surprise at all. There's a very real tendency for massive geopolitical events to happen on the weekend when the markets are closed. All of this stuff is planned, right? Whenever you think about like military attacks, the attacks in Gaza happened on a Saturday. You think about many attacks, I'm pretty sure some of the invasions around Iraq or Afghanistan, can't remember which one it was announced on a weekend. There is, obviously, there's Trump things happening on the weekend. And so anything that has somebody behind it, because clearly, somebody has organized this. They've chosen to target this rally on a Saturday. And there's theories as to why. It's about, they're trying to create the maximum impact on the market, right? Because, when you look into any of these previous things, there are signs of insider trading before 9/11. This is well known. There were people who had very suspicious, very specific trades before 9/11, and the kind of which only somebody with knowledge of the attacks could have had. And so the way this type of thing tends to happen, whether it's a coincidence or whether it's not, is it tends to happen on a weekend. So before, that would have just affected stock market, because then it moves wildly. Currency markets, stock markets, bond markets, it would all just go wild. You see this shit. It's going to be some wild volatility whenever the stocks and currency markets open tonight at 8 p.m. UTC, roughly. Around 10 p.m., around 6 p.m. New York time. But we have crypto. So this tends to, like it did with the fears of war in, we had that over the weekend here, where we had Iran attacking Israel, or Israel attacking Iran, or Iran I can't even remember now. There's so many fucking psyops. And you saw how that affected crypto to downside. So what could have been? We would have went down 10k, probably, if Trump was killed. Because if Trump was killed, I mean, it almost would have guaranteed a civil war, because that is clearly what one side is pushing for here. Make no mistake. One side wants this civil war to happen so they can enforce martial law and do like what they did with the Patriot Act around 9/11, except worse, because it's happening at home, not overseas. And thank God that he survived, because this would have been way worse. And so if you're wondering why did the markets pump, that's because it's exactly what markets do. Markets are all about positioning, right? Positioning is everything. It is about how people are positioned and how well they are hedged or positioned for specific types of risk. So, before Trump got shot, and this is a true example of a market not knowing, this is a true example of the market pricing something in real time. If you zoom into the low time frame chart. Initially, it dumps down because every single time that you have an event type of breaking news, it will always be perceived, first of all, as a risk, and risk will always flush out of the market. Algos, correlation trades, and all that, they will sell, because what they will see is it's usually scraping. It's usually bots that are scraping news sites, and they will see reports Trump shot. So the instant reaction will be sell, and that's what happened. We dip down, and these are 5-minute candles. Dip down, 10 minutes, 2 5-minute candles. Then it started to become clear that not only was he shot, but he survived. And then you see the videos of him putting up his hand and, showing strength and showing the qualities of a leader and all this. That immediately, and this is how quickly markets will try to price stuff in, that immediately made Trump the president. If there was any doubt before this, there is no doubt. Let me tell you as clearly as possible, there is no doubt Trump wins in a landslide. 0. If he makes it to the election. That's the only thing, right? If. And I think that because they've missed, I'm pretty sure that they'll just wrap him up in cotton wool until November and make sure that he's going to speak and do all this stuff, but it's going to have to be behind big barriers and shit like that. Crazy. But they missed a chance, and hopefully they don't get another chance. But we can only deal with what the market deals with, which is hypotheticals. So, if you accept that Trump makes it to November, which is more likely now because when you fail an assassination attempt, if they just turn around and kill him right away again, it's like super obvious. Because they're going to try and do the whole story of this is a lone gunman, this was some crazy guy, he was obsessed with Trump and blah, 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 right? So, if he gets the election, that's what this is. This is pricing in the Trump win. 100%. And he was already ahead in the polls. There is no fucking way he loses. There's no way. The amount of people who are being won over by this, by the arrests, by the fraud, the phony convictions, by the clear attacks on him, and now by this, I mean, think of how many people that were on the fence that have now moved over, and I think he wins. He could win with the biggest majority in modern history. I mean, it's fucking... He's running against a vegetable. Someone who's literally got dementia. And he's getting more popular by the day. So, I mean, what does it mean for Bitcoin from here? I think the move now is to wait for further price appreciation. If it's going to, so basically, if this move can continue and we can clear this range where this red line is, and where we've broken out from, if Bitcoin's able to move up into here and have a nice move towards kind of 62 level, I think that type of move is where you want to see consolidation, and then I just think we grind higher. So basically what you want to see is clearing out of this previous range. So get significantly above it. Don't put a big long wick on today's candle. Don't dump right back down tomorrow. There are things you don't want to see as a bull. Push further up. Few days consolidation. Back down. We will come back to this area in my opinion. And of course I don't predict the future. But the reason I say that we will come back is because that is how markets tend to move. I am sure, especially since we have untouched stops here, untouched here, and untouched here, we will come back to the Trump pump, as it will be known, I'm sure. I think we'll come back to at least there. So if we get a nice strong move that clears out a bunch of shorts, but price holds and there's spot demand coming in, I think we will see something like this, where it'll come back, it'll retest, and we'll go on from there. So that'd be like the most bullish scenario. Would be that we don't even come back to the lows, which absolutely can happen. Events, catalysts, and things that come along can change the course of the market. And they will, and they should. This would also give the daily bands time to get above them, come back. It would have to hold. Pushing above the daily bands is only okay if you then hold at them. And I'll show an example. COVID. Right? And actually I'll show them side by side just to show you what I'm talking about here. COVID was not, and I think people have forgotten this because they saw Bitcoin go from, fucking 4K to 69K. COVID was not automatically bullish for markets. It was genuinely bearish for markets. Really bad. Except on the 15th of March, the Fed came out and said, we're going to print as much money as you would ever need. That's important. So we go to COVID. We look over here. Not the 15th of March. It was the 15th. No. I'll get the exact date and I'll talk about it in Weekly Outlook. The point is, here, down here, this was genuinely bearish. There was absolutely reasons to think that it could go lower because the pandemic was still, being digested by people. Is the economy going to be shut down for months or years, or are people going to be out of work, or is there going to be total collapse? Is there going to be recession? Then the Fed came out. I'm guessing it was probably the Thursday, or maybe the markets took a day or more to price it in. But it was this impulse candle. That was either the day they announced unlimited QE, or it was a couple of days after, because the market again can be slow. The point being, the impulse away from that area, so the impulse move away from that area, set up price to consolidate through the bands, and it still took another 6 weeks before moving higher. This move, it entirely depends on how markets react tomorrow. So if you see the dollar dropping, which it is already weak, if you see stock market pumping, and if you see gold pumping, those would all be signs of pricing in a Trump victory, because Trump is going to run a weak dollar policy, right? Which is good for assets. And a weak dollar doesn't mean a weak America. The strength of a currency is all to do with imports and exports. So you don't want to have a really strong dollar because that can disincentivize certain types of activity. So countries will strategically shoot for weak policies on purpose, right? So if you see that, if you see a strong stock market on the open, if you see a strong week ahead, and basically, to keep it very, very simple, if we are above yesterday's close, so if we're above that 59.2, in a week from now, going into the next weekly close, I'd say bottom's in, and we're seeing something like this. Of course, it's not going to move exactly like this. We can absolutely revisit the lows, but the reaction from here will tell you, in my opinion, whether we are going to, if this is the bottom, right? Again, revisiting the lows is fine. You can come back down and you can sweep this low here. There's a million different paths price can take. For one example where price can go up and hold and then just do the COVID grind up, it can also, come back down, do a retest there, and still be fine, still be bullish. It's just too many people maybe pushed in long, same idea, flushed them down. But the concept of, is the bottom in? Bottoms get confirmed by events and catalysts. So the day we had the bottom and the day we had the retest, we had slowing down of the natural selling that was coming from, or unnatural selling, I should say, that was coming from the German government and all that. So we know the selling slowed down, that's fine. But the follow-up, the subsequent push, Trump's the pro-crypto president, for sure. The markets perceive, both for the stock market and for crypto, the markets will perceive a Trump win as better, much more capitalist, much more of a strong economy, strong market policy. Trump always loved to have a all-time high stock market. That was his thing, because he sees strong stock market as a strong America. And so if the markets begin to price that in even more, you have to think about what's the difference in the price of the stock market and the price of Bitcoin. If Trump's odds go from, which you can see in real time, if Trump's odds go from around 60% to around 70%, which I haven't looked this morning, but I think it's going to roughly be that. It's literally 70. I promise I didn't check that, but I know he was 60 before that. So he was around 60 before yesterday, and now he's 70. When you have a 20% increase in your odds, right, 10% on the raw number, but 20% from 60 to 70, right, roughly 20% uptick in your percentage chance of winning, the markets have to reflect that. Biden has a 16% chance. The sitting president has a 16% chance of winning. Wild. So as that filters through and gets more priced in, that is the bullish catalyst that you're looking for to reignite the bull market. Now, I think if that happens, and assuming Trump is okay, which he seems to be, and assuming that this all goes ahead and there's no hiccups between now and November, Bitcoin making a move back towards range high is pretty easy, right? Not right away, not straight up. Maybe there's a rapid short squeeze as people who are badly positioned at the lows have to get squeezed up. It doesn't mean we're going to like 150k or 100k or even 90k. This is still a consolidation. This is still a range until proven otherwise. And the first trade you'd be looking at would be a trade from the lows, the low end of the range, towards the highs. That would be what I'm looking at, but I'll cover that more on the weekly outlook. Obviously, people are going to look at the election coins. I mean, these are very relatively illiquid. The Trump coin is pretty liquid. Obviously had a big move and has had a huge pump. And it may well have reignited. This coin. However, what I talked about down at the lows is still what I would expect to see. Right? We get this sharp move up towards where the resistance is, and then you pull back from there. Still a long way till November, and I don't think necessarily that this means that Trump token is just gonna endlessly moon. It for sure means this support's rock solid and has held. There's still a lot of work for this to do to get into a trend again, because it pulled back the entire leg, so that's not a trend. If it's able to get above here, and then you flip that side, that's where you're looking at a breakout. I would say after this rally, whether it's now and it drops back as people take profit, or if it pushes higher and drops back, there will be a significant correction on it. It will leave behind a big inefficiency, and I think that inefficiency will fill before we move on. So this area, when it goes up, it probably comes back, it probably holds, and then you probably see a move going from there. You know, Bowden probably took it badly. Yeah, as you'd expect. And outside of that, I think the next thing to focus on is what happens tonight on the markets open. The reaction in currency markets, stock market, gold market will be very informative as well. So, and also interest rates, because this will have an effect on the expected path of monetary policy, fiscal policy. Because again, the markets are now going to try to price in Trump winning, which means Powell's gone, which means Yellen's gone, right? Powell's a Republican, but he fucked over Trump. Trump said he's going to get rid of him. Yellen's a Democrat. Yellen's going to be gone. And so she's the Treasury Secretary. Powell's the Fed Chairman. And a Trump win would lead to changes in all of that. A Trump win would also probably lead to changes in the SEC, which is going to be bullish for crypto, because you really can't get worse than Gensler. You might get somebody in who's not super pro-crypto, but it's hard to get somebody who's more anti-crypto than him. So that's going to tell its own story. And that's it. We'll see. So GM, big day ahead. Weekly outlook, 4 p.m. UTC. I'll have more deeper dive and thoughts on this as I digest it a bit more, do some more analysis. See you then. GM, GM, GM.